Fondly referred to as Pilato by his fans, Chama Fumba is now Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Arts. As Permanent Secretary there, he has received a lot of criticism from people that feel that he has left them behind because he's also known for his activism. But he argues that it is now time for him to work on the things that he was an activist for him to change the narrative on the issues he was an advocate for. For this reason, I sat down with Chama Fumba to talk about these and many other issues. Welcome to this day. My name is Dingindaba Jonah Puyoy. PS, thank you for hosting us here in your office.
Thank you. I'm very happy that we've had time to sit. I've always wanted to sit and chat with the BBC Omla, what's that thing?
Komla Dumo.
Komla Dumo awardees. I think this is a good opportunity. I have always wanted to have an engagement with yourself.
The last time that we had such an interview was before you became Permanent Secretary. But the last time that you and I met was at the National Sports Awards.
Yes.
And I want us to start from there because at the National Sports Awards, I observed something interesting. And it's that when you were on stage, it was two people from the arts circle standing in front of everybody as permanent secretaries, and both of them, it felt like both of them missed their previous life because the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Youth called you Pilato, you called him Jason Cabanana, and you had a bit of banter. Do you miss that life?
I think I would miss it if I stopped. I don't think I've stopped. I'm still Pilato. I still go to the studio. I still record. And I still like the name Pilato because at least it's the name I gave to myself. So I still do that. I still record, I still make the music. And I still engage and speak to people like I used to. No room for missing anything. I'm still active. Maybe I may not be performing like I used to as much as I used to, which to some extent you miss it, especially on Saturday when you want to go have that Pilato madness. But mostly the creation of music and art continues.
Very interesting, and my curious side is just thinking, what do these songs that you record sound like? Because you have a unique sound, and the things you say are also very unique.
Yeah, it's I do speak about interesting things and do think that I've got a very unique sound. I would have loved to share what my new music talks about, but much of it is talking about responsibility. I'll give an example. I just did an album 2020, 21, I think we did an album called Lifeless, which speaks about our responsibility towards the environment, which I think is very, very critical. And considering where we are in terms of climate change now, it's a conversation that most of us need to engage in. So I speak about human responsibility. And I think it's a conversation, it's a discussion. These are discussions that we should be having as a country.
Why are you not releasing this music? Do you? And I'm getting very artsy here as I'm asking these questions. Yeah. Do you think that you don't do this because people will take you less serious as permanent secretary because you are releasing music?
Nah. I would want to, because my position now entails that I need to facilitate for as many young artists as possible, to be active in the space. I would be happy to release this music tomorrow, but I would want to create an opportunity for another artist to take up that position, that space. My job is really not to be the artist, but to create opportunities and spaces for as many artists as possible to get in this space. And what we've been able to do for the time that I've been here is to engage organizations that are critical stakeholders in the development of arts, but also in the manifestation of art, to get into these critical spaces to engage and allow artists to contribute meaningfully. I do not agree that artists are there to entertain any one of us. Artists are not only, if they entertain any one of us, it should be by accident. Artists should exist to express themselves and contribute to the development of society. And if in that process you get entertained, it's you're lucky. And that's why we charge you, because you want me to entertain you, I'm going to charge you. But initially I wanted just to communicate my story and share my ideas. So I think that if we take art from that perspective, it'll be easier, and we can create as many opportunities as possible for artists to get involved in conversations on governance, to get involved in discussions on climate change, to get involved in finance management discussions, because these are critical discussions that influence society. And artists are so powerful and so influential that we cannot subtract them from such critical conversations. I would want to create as many opportunities as possible for young people and for the artists to get involved and be part of the fashioning of designing of our society for now and in the future.
It would be wrong for somebody to say that you're hoarding this music, I should say, because you fear that the response would not be the same response that people would have given 4 years ago.
It would be a justified assumption. But again, like I said, I do not think that artists make music for the people to listen. Artists make music because it's what they should do. Whether there are 10 people that listen or no one listening, the objective is that the artist should be able to express themselves. Whether people listen or not, there has to be life of this artist to express itself. I do not think that I'm one that whose abilities or be influenced by the potential listenership. I think that as an artist myself, I think I should express myself, and whether there is a guarantee that people will listen or not, that's bonus. I would want to live fully as an artist where I express myself, and it ends there. If somebody listens to it, that's bonus.
And I'll talk about that a little later in our interview, because art comes in different forms.
Yes.
And there's a lot of artists in this country. But I also just want to talk about something that a lot of people have been talking about. And I know you've come across this issue when you talk about your music. You are known for a specific type of music, especially historically, talking about governance, talking about issues affecting people in the country. You've moved on and you're working with the government, but there are some people who feel that you're doing them a disservice because they need you there speaking for them.
Yeah, I must agree that I've seen a lot of commentary in that line. On my part, I think it's a failure to appreciate that, first of all, democracy is not just the ability to articulate problems. Democracy is also an opportunity for people to compete in articulation of solutions to problems. As an activist and as an artist, my job was to articulate a problem. And I did articulate my problems in that fashion because there was no platform for some of us to share what we thought could be solutions to the problems. Being able to speak or share thoughts or concerns about facing society is one part of the job. The bigger part of the job is to be able to respond and provide a solution to that which has been identified as a problem. I think today I have an opportunity to demonstrate the commitment to the ideals that I stand for, the ideals that I spoke and defended. This is an opportunity for me to say, I believe in this, and this is how things should be done. So for my friends that are saying that I've abandoned or neglected the cause, I think they're doing it out of love. I think they love and respect what we were doing. But also I think I would challenge them to be courageous enough to accept that after you've identified the problem, the next phase is to find a solution, a cure to that particular problem that you identified. And democracy allows us to do that. Democracy allows this flow of ideas. And for those that are still in a position to identify the challenges, I encourage them to continue doing that. But there has to be somebody to take up the responsibility to say, this is what you're saying is a problem, and I'm going to take this responsibility to prescribe the treatment for this particular problem. I am privileged to be in a position to say, this is what people are saying is a problem. I sit with my colleagues and say, this is a problem according to what has been presented to us. What is the solution to this? I think that's a privilege that I respect and do not take for granted, and look forward to a point where we'll be seated like this and look at what we will have done with this opportunity that we have.
With some of them thinking that the same democracy you talk about is so sophisticated that one of the ways to circumvent the purpose of democracy is to give responsibilities like this one to people like you, so that they can't chew with the bone in the mouth. You can't talk with the bone in the mouth. That's what they've been saying about you.
It's a very interesting perspective, and I do not think that I can disqualify it entirely. What I would want to obviously also share with them is that, then how do we solve our problems? How do we deal with the challenges that we are faced with? If the only thing that we can do is call out our problems, if the only thing that we can do is do the diagnosis of our society and fail to prescribe treatment and fail to take responsibility and say, this is what is our problem, some people amongst us must take responsibility to say, this is a problem, we will stand and deal with this challenge. There is no shame, and there shouldn't be shame, to stand up and find solutions to the problems that we are faced with. And I think that's where we should be.
Do you think that the population of young people has a lot of cowards, and they're not able to stand up for themselves and want to use you as their scapegoat?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we've got the most courageous young people. We have courageous, brave young people in this country. I think that the few that have been given the responsibility to be in these positions, must therefore take the opportunity to demonstrate, to lead and lead as many young people as possible to action, to lead to a place where this courage that these young people espouse is put in practice. You must be aware that we have a bigger population of young people. Therefore, it is the responsibility of young people to even influence some of the policies, some of the actions, some of the decisions that we make even at government level. And I think young people are doing that. But it would be great to even have more young people standing up to play a part in the shaping of the present and of the future of this country. But most also importantly, I think that our young people are in a place where they need practical, relatable leadership. And because they are courageous, because they are brave, that is why they're able to stand up and say, Pilato, 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 Pilato. When this story is done, and Pilato has been able to do the right thing, to lead the young people to something that they will say, okay, this is where we were coming from, I think we'll see more of our young people offering themselves to save this country. It's an opportunity that I think that we can extend to as many young people as possible. And I think because they are courageous, because they are brave, once the route is cleared, I think it will be easier for them to take charge.
Let's talk about the role of permanent secretary that you have. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and one of the things is, like I said earlier, the many artistic young people that are out there in the country. Yes. But while you want to use this as an opportunity for a lot of them to come forward, I'll cite examples of times when people have felt that it may be going against whatever objectives you may have. And I'll cite examples of the time, for example, that the president was meeting musicians, yes, and people went to town talking about how they knew none of these people, and yet these people want to represent them before the president. And this is what becomes a big issue, that people like yourself, who position themselves as talking on behalf of people, when given such an opportunity,
will go on and bring people that they know, their own people, and put them on.
Thank you very much, Jonah. Again, we must understand that what makes one an artist or a musician is not their popularity. So the people that met with the president may not be popular to some of us, but they are popular to some other people. But also that does not qualify them to be musicians. The president remains open to meet any creative artists, and those are not the only creatives that the president has met. We've had opportunity to take even more popular artists, and I've met the president. I'll give an example. My good friend Makitu has been to State House. Are you telling me that Makitu is not popular? We've had friends like Roberto has been to State House. We've friends like Mampi, Cleo, Bombshell. Those have been to State House. Are we saying they are not popular? If they are not, then who is? But the point is that popularity does not qualify one to be a musician. And whilst popularity has some influence, or some influence to determine action, our commitment to developing art is not limited to those that are popular. Because those that are popular already may have some measure of social and economic power that may be working out for them. Our interest as a ministry and as government is to support those that are in a position of talent. They may have the talent, but in a position that they can't help themselves to the next level, where they can start making meaningful benefit for themselves, to lift them. Our focus is not just the popular artists or the famous artists. Our focus is artists across the board, those that are at the bottom and those that are at the top. The president taking time to meet these artists and musicians that you make reference to is a commitment to the arts sector, to say he's ready and willing to meet even those that you may not consider popular. He is in a position to say, these are my children, these are my citizens, and if I can support them, I will do it. If I can give my time to listen to their challenges, if I can support, if I can be in a place to inspire them, I'm going to do it. And that's what the president demonstrated. If the president was to say, only bring popular artists to me, then where are we going to take those that may be considered unpopular?
You talk about economic and social value, maybe social value, but what economic value is coming out of the arts in Zambia, the very many artists that are in the country, the ones that are not popular?
The economic value, broadly, I'll tell you that every economic development of any country or any society is dependent on the innovativeness and the creativity of its people. And when we speak of art as government, we do not just speak of the art that takes you to the bar. We're speaking of art that speaks of our intelligence. We speak of art that speaks of our brilliance as a people. And that's the art that we're committing to build. The economic value of this creativity that we have in this country is so enormous that if we invested our time and resources, the benefits are so much that we cannot write them in a day. I'll give an example, and I keep making this example. Speak of the film industry, which is very, very young, which is still in its infancy, I should say. One production like Zuba employs over 300 people. Over 300 people, one TV production. They are actors, writers, makeup artists, video editors, videographers, all of these, catering services, accountants, business development officers, all these brought together by one TV production. These are young people that could have been lining up for jobs in the industrial area. These are young people that we could be seeing on the road. One TV production has created this value, economic value, to over 300 people. And they have decent pay, decent housing, they are living amongst us with dignity. See how much that could be if we extended that power. That is why it has been a priority for this government to create an ecosystem, to create an environment where we can grow film, we can grow the music industry, where we can grow the visual arts, we can grow the literal arts. So we can create as many opportunities as possible for artists to create value for themselves, but also for the country, where we can have artists creating job opportunities for themselves, but also for their colleagues in society. That is the potential that is there. Mind you, this is one sector that has never been exploited. This is one sector that has so much potential that even when we speak of forex and forex earning and all of that, this sector has that potential to earn us money across the border without polluting the environment, without damaging any part or component of our environment. That is a creative sector. This government recognizes that. And that is why the priority for this government has not been to throw money around, but to put in place elements, components, policies, and governance infrastructure that then formalizes the sector.
But you also recognize, PS, that society, to a very large extent, is a construct. And some people will argue that we are constructing Zambia's society to find one of the easiest ways for them not to be productive. Because you talk about 300 people, but you also know that there's 300,000 more people that are involved in art in the country, and the possibility is very likely that they will not be on a ZUA set. Exactly. And the critics of these initiatives say you're encouraging them to be lazy when they could be somewhere else doing other things, when countries, in the other parts of the global south are focusing on innovation through technology, they're focusing on, engineering and all of that, and we want to encourage people to just be in the arts in a third world country.
I do not agree with you, Jordan. I do not agree with you. I'll ask you, I'll challenge you to look around this room and tell me one piece of item in this room that is not artistic. I would challenge you to go in your office, go at the studio, look around, just point at one thing that does not involve creativity. That is the center of economic development. That is the center of our civilization, next level of civilization. It is creativity. When we speak of arts, and just to give an example of Zuba, of one particular TV production that is creating this much space, opportunities for young people. I can give examples of, I'll give an example of an artist like Yomaps. Yomaps would have been lining up looking for jobs in other places. But instead, he's creating employment for other young people. Just an example. If you go to people that, I'll ask you to look at that particular painting there, and this particular painting was bought from Winilunga. The young people that produced this particular artwork could have been lining up somewhere looking for jobs and handouts, but they produced these artworks to sell. That's not laziness. What that does mean is that people are able to create opportunities for themselves instead of them restricting themselves to conventional job formats. They are creating opportunities for themselves. And that is why, like I said, this government does not look at art as just a piece of entertainment. No. We look at art as a critical part of our development agenda, because we fully understand that if we can create an environment, an environment that will attract investment, not sympathy. If we can create an environment that is credible, that can grow one artist from their starting point to their growth, we'll have resolved a lot of challenges, and we have supported a lot of artists who may not even know where this office is. If we create the environment, even when government will wake up and say we are going to give you 30 million kwacha as a creative sector, we will know that this 30 million kwacha will have this level of impact. We will be able to track the power and the impact of this 30 million kwacha in the sector, because we will have introduced and developed every component of an economy or the sector that will help us track that down. It is where we are now. We are saying, one, we identify the potential. 2, we know what can be done and what should be done. 3, we are committing ourselves to doing that. An example to doing that is the national arts policy. We've never had a national arts policy in this country, which means that even private players didn't even know what we wanted to do with the arts. Now with the sector, with the policy, it is a clear roadmap that indicates that government, first of all, looks at this creative sector not as just a social sector, not as a recreational sector, not as an entertainment sector, but as a viable economic sector. Therefore, the commitment is that can we make this sector as viable as possible? Can we take every opportunity that we have to create this sector into a sector that will create jobs for the millions of our young people, but not just as here, not just for young people, but even for those that have left the younghood already. Can we create this sector where people that are creative, people that are not creative, can still run to a TV station and say, I write productions, can I get a job? I write adverts, can I get a job? Can we create a sector where somebody who can paint does not need to go and line up for a job to become a nurse? They can get a job as a visual artist, so they can create themselves, their business as a visual artist and be successful.
And you believe that this ecosystem has to be built using a policy?
A policy is one of the documents that is needed. Because again, I'll give you an example. If you wanted to partner with government in the creative sector, where do you start from? A policy helps you to understand that this is what this government wants to get to. And you can then define your intervention. You can define your partnership. The policy is one particular document that will give us the idea, that will give you the idea of where we would like to get to as a government. Like I said, with this policy, it is clear now that we do not think that the creative sector is a social sector. We think and are convinced that the creative sector is a social but also economic sector. And every economic sector must have proper soft infrastructures that then guides how this sector plays. I'll give you an example. For the very first time, artists in this country will now be able to get pension. For the very first time. That is in the policy that has been implemented. An artist in Zambia today can go and make their pension contributions to NAPSA. An artist in Zambia, a female artist, is still even qualifies for maternity cover. That has never happened. Why? Because that is what you expect in other formal settings. And that's why what we've brought to the creative sector. That is a critical development because we want a dignity that is attached to any other employee in this country to be attached to a creative player.
I'll also cite examples. For the longest time, under the various presidents that we've had in the country, from President Kenneth Kaunda, tourism was regarded as a social undertaking. In fact, it was mostly encouraged as a social undertaking. But up until between the period of 2009 to 2013, the Zambian government, successive governments, decided that they were going to commercialize it and get maximum benefit from it. Within that period, the projection has remained the same today, that we are supposed to get at least 40% of our revenue from tourism in the country and make it a part of our gross domestic product and the product that we're offering. That has not happened. And that simply demonstrates the challenge that we have as a country, doesn't it? That we worry about the policies and make the policies that we will not follow.
I may not be in a position to speak confidently about the realities in the tourism sector, but I will tell you that the creative sector, like I said, the creative sector carries with it the potential that we've clearly defined and identified, right? It is difficult for us to create a sector or develop a sector without identifying our vision, without identifying our roadmap. Our starting point in developing the policy implies that because we know where we are going, then it is easier for us to even come and say, what do we need in place for us to get to there? I think that it would be difficult for us to improve or review our laws or any other piece of soft infrastructure that we need in the creative sector without first identifying where we would like to get to. The policy gives us that opportunity. The policy gives us that guidance, and I think we are implementing some of these. I could give you another example. The policy speaks to the need for infrastructure development. This country, for a very long time, like I said, has considered the creative sector as a social sector. So even in the investment in the infrastructure has not been that much. Even under very difficult conditions economically, this government has committed some resources to rehabilitate some of the critical infrastructure, both in Lusaka, Copperbelt, and Livingstone. Lusaka Playhouse, Chingula Art Society, and the Livingstone National Gallery, and the development of a national arts center. That should speak something. This is a commitment that has been made even before the policies were launched. That is how much we're committed to developing the sector. That is how much we're committed to implementing the policies. But it is this policy then that brings that guidance. It is this policy again that gives you the power to even hold us accountable, to say, this is where you said you would get this sector to. Why? How far? And to give you even more ammunition, this policy comes with an implementation plan. Again, a demonstration of our commitment to where we would like to get this sector to.
And I still draw you back to the confidence that people lack in these implementation plans, these policies. Because in 2019, it has nothing to do with your ministry, but in 2019, there was a cholera eradication policy. We had a cholera outbreak just this year, and hundreds of people died from it. And perhaps that's where people's doubts come from, people's lack of confidence in these implementation plans, that we are so good at drawing down papers with a completely different reality.
Unfortunately, we need these policies in place, and let the public hold us accountable at our failure. I would give you examples of where success has been recorded with policies in place. I would challenge you to tell me where development was recorded in a sector without clearly defined and articulated policies. I think it may be difficult on your part. I can give you examples of where these policies have produced great results. Our commitment is not to fail. Our commitment is to succeed. And to succeed, these are prerequisites. These are things that we need in place for us to get to a desired end. And I think we are on the right track.
The National Arts Policy, December 2023, the Film Policy and the Implementation Policy, which are supposed to be implemented within the next 4 years, up until 2028. When you, as the technocrats and the team that has been drafting these policies, look at 2028, what are you seeing, and what should Zambians wait to see at the end of this tunnel?
With the guidance from the policies, what we hope to see is we will have a revised legal framework where an investment in the creative sector will be as safe as any investment in any other sector. Where works of art, if you produced a song today, that song will remain protected. That song will produce the benefits of that particular production, will come to you. Will protect your IP, will protect your work, will protect your creativity. But most importantly, we have a sector, we have an environment that does not look at faces, an environment that does not look at names, an environment that will respond to your creativity, an environment that will respond to your hard work, an environment that will reward your hard work and commitment. That is what we would like to get to. Would like to get to growing, being a significant contributor to the GDP of this country, Uh, Currently, we are told that the creative sector contributes about 0.04%. We would like to grow that probably to 5%. And it's very possible, like I just gave an example. And we've engaged ZRA, we've engaged other banks and other critical players in the sector to see how do we create this environment that is operational, but also is responding to the realities and the needs of the sector. 2028, if you and I will be alive, I'll be happy to sit down with you and say, you see, that's what we're talking about. That's what our commitment was. And I'll be happy to have that chat with you.
A lot of people would like to get an update on an initiative that was under this ministry a couple of years ago, before you came in. And this was 30 million kwacha distributed through the National Arts Council to various artists, and these were loans that were ideally supposed to grow these sections of art. Have these loans been paid back, and are they creating any impact?
Very interesting question. First of all, I think that it must be understood that the loans were not given under this ministry, were given under the Citizens Empowerment Commission, which then obviously, because they were targeting at artists, the National Arts Council were brought in the picture. Again, it speaks to what I was speaking or trying to communicate earlier. When a sector or any person that dares to respond to a problem, and they're so fixed on thinking that the only problem they have is money, they may not have a full understanding of the sector. Like a creative sector, the creative sector needs money. But before you give it the money, create the environment. And I may not really have a clear understanding of what the prevailing circumstances were when these loans were disbursed. But where we stand, our understanding is that if we were to dump 30 million kwacha in the creative sector now, and we say we're going to give artists and creatives as loans, we will be wasting that money. Because one, there is more that an artist needs for them to make profit or to make good use of this money. I'll give you an example. If I gave you a loan to produce a film, you said I gave you a 2 million kwacha. How do you make that 2 million kwacha as a filmmaker in this country? One, you produce the movie. Where do you sell it? How do you protect that particular work from piracy? If you were speaking of movies, I mean music, the same thing. What we are saying is that before we even think of bringing this money in this sector, we must make sure that the environment is safe for your work. So when you get a loan from us, we give you a loan or a grant, whatever we give you to invest in your art, we must guarantee, we must promise you that one, if you say you're going to make a film, once you produce this film, this is how you're going to market it. We'll have developed the market linkages and networks that allows you to say, I've produced my work, where do I take it? There has to be a publisher, there has to be a distributor, there has to be a marketer, and all those things must be in place. For us to attract such unique investments in the sector, there has to be a policy that speaks to that. There has to be a legal framework that speaks to the protection and the interest of these stakeholders. And that's what we're committing to. If we were to be given that 30 million kwacha, trust me at the moment, it would not be to give loans. It would not be to give grants. It's to create this environment.
Do you think that the people, the artists and the people that you are speaking for, like what you're saying right now?
I'm not so good at making friends, but I think that those whose commitment and those whose passion speaks to sustainable investment, the sustainable growth and all of that, they will understand that the success of a work of art, the success of creativity, the success of the works that they produce every day does not just depend on the availability of money. Some of my friends got that loan, and till today, they're still struggling to pay. Because one, after they got the money, they realized that there were many other things that were not in place. These are things that you need. I'll give you an example of a plant. If you were to have a garden and the only thing that you think you need is fertilizer, you have a problem, because you get the fertilizer, then you realize that you need water. You get the money, then you realize that for you to make the profit from this money that you've gotten as a loan, which has now put you in a corner, you need A, B, C, D for this money that you've gotten to be profitable, for this money that you've made to have an impact on yourself and also the people around you in the community. You need a few other things. What we are saying as government is that we'll give you the loans, we'll give you the grants, we'll give you that financial support. But how do we ensure that this money is not just a burden to you? Because our colleagues, some of our colleagues that got the money are now struggling to even respond to CEC, because the money that they thought would give them a push has not delivered that push that they expected. But instead, they have to now start responding to questions on when they are going to pay. And we don't want to trap our creatives like that. We don't want to put our artists in problem, because we know that for them to be successful, they need the money, but not just the money. They need an environment that allows them to get the loan. And when they produce their artwork, somebody should be there to make the most out of that. It should be distributed, it should be protected. If we create an environment where piracy and bootlegging of creative work is a crime, we will then even attract other investors to come and say, in Zambia, if I can put money in the music sector, I'll be assured of getting the benefits, because they know that stealing a creative work in Zambia is a crime. Because they will know that an investment in Zambia is safe. We need to create the environment. My creatives, my artist friends, those that know the need for us to create a sustainable environment, for those that know and understand the commitment to a sustainable development for the arts, do understand that we need to have this environment created.
Finally, a very big issue that I'm hoping we can discuss very quickly has to do with the fact that Zambia has been grappling with a growing drug abuse problem.
Yes.
Most recently, the Drug Enforcement Commission, I had an interview with the DG, and he was highlighting how there's a growing use of consumption of drugs, illegal drug abuse, and there's also manufacturing of drugs. And one of the sides of the department that you lead, that you're permanent secretary for, is the social side. I mean, we've talked about the economic side, but the social side as well. How do we deliberately utilize the arts to avert this glimmering, lingering problem that could potentially explode right before us?
Thank you very much, Jonah. Again, I'll point you to the policy, the two policies that we shared, which also attempts to respond to that challenge. The drug issue is a very, very serious issue, and I would have wished that there was a one solution to all of the challenges that our young people are faced. But again, it speaks to a lot of gaps that exist in our social structures. And whilst you'd have loved to take away the conversation from the economics, I think it also is part of a bigger problem. A bigger problem in that most of our young people that could have been in school were denied the opportunity to get in school, or had no opportunity to get in school. So that opportunity to develop their cognitive, develop their minds was not given to them. And when you deny a youth population an education, you are blessing them with a problem, because an education has power to increase chances of succeeding at so many levels, right? If you deny young people, if you deny your young people an opportunity to get into school, you are asking them to find alternatives. An alternative to entertainment, alternative to survival, alternative to so many things. And because we had created that environment where young people getting into school was a privilege, we had exposed them to these other alternatives. I have a very good network with so many of our young people that are on the streets, and we're trying to help as many as possible. Just 2-3 days ago, I had about 10 of our young people from the streets that came here and tried to discuss, because they've been able to get into a studio and record songs, and I had to speak to ZNBC to air some of that music. We denied these young people an opportunity to increase their chances at succeeding. But art comes in handy, because when you are talented, art gives you an opportunity to express yourself and be able to achieve economic benefits. Some of us grew up thinking that art was, music in particular, was for people that didn't like school that much. And music gave that power. And you find that people that were rejected by society, people that were judged harshly by society because they did not grow up from neighborhoods and communities that had good stories, were given an opportunity to, by art, to get in spaces where they are proud. Like I said, so what the art does, art responds even when everything else is shut. If you can write your song, if you can produce your song, if you can record your song, art gives you an opportunity, 1, to be heard, 2, to make some money for yourselves, 3, to lift even your families. There are a lot of examples that I could give of young people that have survived vices, that have survived drug abuse, that have survived these vices because they identified their talent. But also, everything that we know about society, everything that we appreciate as beauty, everything we loathe as ugly, was technically communicated to us by artists. They painted and told us, this is beautiful, this handbag is very beautiful, buy it. The artists have the power to again communicate to society and tell them that we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to guide. We have a responsibility to take care of those young people that may not be in places and settings that bring proper guidance to these young people. Art has the power to influence mindsets. Art has the power to influence lifestyles and all of those things. Art gives us that opportunity, again as society, to look at ourselves and challenge ourselves. I am submitting to you that in this particular conversation, 1, art comes in as a solution to the challenges that these young people face, but then also art comes in as a tool to change the mindsets of these young people. Thank you very much.
PS, thank you so much for hosting us here.
Thank you very much.